Through the darkness of future past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, pod with me.
That was amazing.
Thanks, dude. Welcome to Fire Pod with me. This is our first episode of our Twin Peaks podcast. We're going to be going over the new episodes that are coming out right now. It started from the other day. We had like a 40-minute long conversation about episode 8 of Twin Peaks: The Return. So we just decided that if we're saying all this stuff and thinking about the episodes and theorizing about the episodes, why not record it and have fun with other people that are also hypothesizing about what's going on in the world of David Lynch's Twin Peaks.
Definitely. Yeah, I will say, because I'm kind of new to Twin Peaks relatively. Within the last couple of months, I've watched it all, so I don't think I consider myself an expert by any means, but I think...
Definitely, and neither of us are experts. We both started watching around the same time.
Yeah. But yeah, we were just having these really long, extensive conversations, so we're like, we might as well record this, because that's part of the fun in watching it, is whether it's philosophical or, literal interpretations. There's so many ways that you can look at it. So that's what's fun, is just having the conversation afterwards. So why not record it?
Definitely. And if we like doing this enough, we thought that we might just go to the beginning after all these episodes are done. With the miniseries, would go into the full thing.
Yeah, I would love to rewatch it. I think I was already telling you that, just after watching episode 8, I was like, man, I could really just rewatch the whole series.
Yeah,
there's so many callbacks constantly, very subtly too.
Damn fine show.
So grab a good old black cup of joe, maybe some cherry pie, sit down and enjoy.
Today we're going to be talking about episode 9 of The Return. Let's see, does that have a title? The episode, there's called Part 9, right?
I could have swore that I saw that the description has "This is the chair," referring to the Major Briggs chair. But I'm not sure if that is the actual title, or that's just the description of it.
The description of the episode was "This is the chair."
Would have loved to have the woodsman pop back up and give a monologue about the chair.
This is the chair.
Man.
Sit in it.
That's it. That's the whole poem.
Yeah. Got what?
Okay, so the episode starts off with how are you referring to him as? Evil Coupe? Scale Coupe?
Yeah, I call him Scale Cooper because he's Scary Dale Cooper, but I think I'm the only person in the world that does that.
I like that. I wasn't sure where that came from, but I liked it.
I've heard people call him Mr. C, but that makes me think of Mr. C, the slide man, the person that is responsible for the cha-cha slide, which is inherently evil in itself. So,
Mr. C, the slide man's got Bob in him. You can spread that theory around. So yeah, we see Evil Coupe coming out A-OK. After the what we believe to be the woodsman did the tribal dance around him, and I don't know how much you want to go back into episode 8.
Well, yeah, and it looked like they removed the Bob orb.
Yeah, the Borb.
The good old Borb.
Yeah, they took it out of him. That's how you interpreted that, right? That's what you saw?
Yeah. But it's hard to tell.
Right.
Because that whole episode, basically from that point on, just was completely bonkers.
Uh-huh. Man. Yeah, that's obviously a whole nother episode in itself because of how insane and haunting and beautiful that episode was. So,
definitely.
Yeah, so we see, Evil Coupe's okay. I think we really don't see. Oh well, no, never mind. We see him afterwards. But anyway, we see that he's okay, and then we see Gordon, Albert, and Diane, and Gordon's assistant. I forget what her.
Tammy.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
They're on the plane ride back to.
They're going to Philadelphia, which is where the FBI headquarters is.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so then, yeah, while they're coincidentally above South Dakota, they get a call from Ernie Hudson. I forget Ernie Hudson's character's name. Um, Saying that they need to go check out Briggs's body.
Right, right. We get a couple of good fuck you, Coop, fuck you, Albert,
Uh-huh.
fuck you.
Oh man, yeah,
I'm loving Diane.
me too, man. Great. Like, I had no idea. You know, when you watch the series, there's so much mystery behind the Diane character, and
For
then
for for a little while, I thought Diane might just be the name of his tape recorder.
me too, because I always thought about logistically, like, is he like sending these tapes like every night? Like, how exactly are they communicating? You know,
I'm not sure. That is that
is it
that's
like an archive? He just like keeps all these tapes, but that wouldn't make any sense. So I don't know.
I don't know either.
But yeah, no, her what's her name? Laura Dern. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Great performance. So then we see Evil Coupe show up at the farm, which is where at the beginning of episode 8 they mentioned they were heading.
Yeah. And we see our boy Tim Roth there.
Tim Roth and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and um, I love how they were used. That was great.
I'm always down to see Tim Roth.
Hmm.
Ever since Reservoir Dogs,
Oh yeah.
I've been a big Tim Roth head.
I love that, like, because the last thing I believe that we saw them in together was the Hateful Eight, and they were both very cunning, smart, like hardened criminals. And this, I don't know, they seem kind of dumb,
Oh yeah.
and that I love that. Yeah, so we see, you
I
know,
love that I love that she has she's got the bag of Cheetos in her back pocket and she makes it a point to give them to Scale Coop.
yeah. Oh man, so yeah, essentially like the farm's like off the grid place where I guess criminals can go and get your guns, like a checkpoint.
Yeah. They've got you know vehicles and it seemed like they had a multitude of very outdated cellular phones.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so they basically send Evil Coop on their way, or on his way, but before they do that, he says um, Coop wants the warden killed
Right.
within like 2 days, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And he said whether it's at the prison or on his way there or at home, take him out.
Darn Warden. He was like, I have no beef with you, Warden. I'm not going to kill you. He's just like, no, kill him.
Yeah, but you know, for future reference, we should definitely start taking Evil Coop's direct quotes because since he do such a good Evil Coop impression.
It's very, very good to see you again, old friend.
Love it. Yeah,
I feel like he definitely talks differently when he's in that interview room. He's much slower and weirder.
no, I
Which-
agree.
To me, it almost seems like he's almost like a recording
Mm-hmm.
when he's in there.
Yeah, no, when I first saw that, I was like, this isn't like a post effect, like just to show that he's in another room. Like he's actually talking different. Like it wasn't just how they mixed his audio.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he definitely is talking like a real weirdo, weirder than he normally does. So another interesting point to that is after he says he wants the warden killed, he says he has 2 hits in Vegas that he wants Tim Roth and Jennifer Jason Leigh to take care of. Who do you suspect those to be?
That is a great question. Probably. Well, we see that guy with the Lenovo laptop. Has he been named?
No, and I was actually going to look that up. I forgot. He was the gentleman, if any of our listeners will remember. Yeah, he was in one of the previous early episodes, and we just see him. He's this like guy behind a desk, and his assistant comes up and is like, "Why do you let him take advantage of you like this?" And he's like,
Never get involved with a man like this.
"Yeah." So
Yeah.
he's obviously someone that helps Evil Coop.
Yeah.
We now know.
And he received a phone call from him this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Is it done yet?" He's like, "No." And he's like, "Get it done."
Yeah.
Hangs up.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what that's about.
I'm assuming that one of the hits is for that guy, and then
Oh, interesting.
and then maybe the other hit is for, because I mean, when Dougie was Dougie in Vegas when he was.
Yeah. That's who I'm suspecting, at least for one, is Dougie, and maybe Dougie's wife. I don't know, maybe. But
Classic Jeannie E.
Dude, they can't leave Sonny Jim behind.
No, dude.
My boy. Can't leave that boy alone with his cowboy light.
Hello.
It's a nice way to lighten up that dark thought. So
Lights out for Sonny Jim.
Oh man. One night I would love to just wake up and have Kyle sitting next to me on the bed asking me if I want some potato chips.
You know, it's not as far-fetched as for some people. Steven is based in Kyle MacLachlan's hometown.
Right.
So
a true Yakima hero.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving past that, that was one of the most like key points that I sought though after like reflecting on the episode is who are the two hits. So that's going to be a key plot point for sure.
Yeah, and I'm loving that we're going to get more Tim Roth out of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, yeah, for them to be playing like kind of the Pulp Fiction, like Tim Roth and his partner type of character is amazing. So yeah, after that we see the cops asking Dougie's boss, what the hell's going on? Or to quote Gordon, what the hell?
What the hell?
All the memes that have spawned from that are amazing. Like there's this video from sorry, not to get too sidetracked, but there's like this video from like 2001 or something, and it's of David Lynch like in an interview, and he's like eating panties. He like puts these like panties in his mouth. So somebody synced it up where it's Gordon watching that, and then, of course, saying "what the hell," and that cracked me up.
Like he's watching a bizarre video of himself that he
Yes.
doesn't remember.
He's not the only one that's forgotten his memory.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Dougie's boss seems confused a little bit, or he's a little intrigued by
Battle and Bud.
Yeah, that's right, Battle and Bud, because he's not sure. I think he's starting to question like what's going on with Dougie as far as like how he's acting with his memory, and then obviously his car exploding, and then Ike the Spike attacking him.
Ike the Spike, dude.
Ike the Spike. We'll get into Ike here in a minute because obviously something happens with him in this episode. But I think the most significant thing that came out of the scene with the cops asking Dougie's boss some questions is once the boss leaves the room, one of the cops comes in and says that there's no records of Dougie before 1997. No birth certificate, no driving license, anything like that. I was a little confused as to why it's 1997
and not like 1990 or 1991.
Yeah. That was interesting to me. I don't know how important that is or how that fits into the timeline. But yeah, that's obviously going to be a huge plot point.
Right.
Because that was one of my biggest things when I think about how in theory with the Black Lodge, and I could be a little off here, but if everybody has one doppelganger, or if that is what we
have come to know anyway.
Yeah, and for there to technically be 3 Coupes with Dougie, Evil Coupe, but Evil Coupe essentially is Coupe.
Right, he took the place of regular Cooper.
Right, but it still doesn't make sense for Dougie to exist.
No, it doesn't. But,
yeah.
But like Mike said, someone manufactured you.
Don't die. That voice is going to be in my head now whenever I'm in a dangerous situation.
Don't die. Don't die. Don't die.
Oh man, I love how they've been using Mike. Mike was always one of my favorite characters. So.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, then they of course Dougie is drinking coffee because I mean you can't get Coop away from his coffee.
That's the Dale in there.
That's that Dale. I that's one thing that's been really interesting is like obviously in episode 7 when Ike attacks Dougie and he just responds instinctively.
Yeah. Oh man, I love the sound effects of the of the punches in that scene. I was cracking up.
Very outdated, but still amazing.
It was like it was very cartoonish. Mm-hmm. Just every time he hits like
squeeze his hand off.
Oh man, that was a great scene.
Yeah, amazing. So anyway, yeah, they give him a new cup of coffee and they take his old cup and get Dougie's prints off of that. So now we're gonna be there's a lot of things that are coming down the pipe, and we'll talk about this later in the episode because even more so happens.
Right.
But a lot of people are now figuring out who Dougie is, and they're digging into his past, and all these stories, all these separate stories, I think are going to be conflicting or actually coming to a head.
Definitely,
relatively
a lot
soon.
of things are coming together with this episode.
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that more too.
Yeah, it's definitely given us more answers than any of the previous ones.
Yeah, yeah. It's been amazing to see. If I'm not mistaken, I read that because there's all those disagreements with David Lynch and Showtime for a long time, and there's obviously that huge campaign because he was going to step away from it. But I think the way that Showtime set it up was he filmed it as one long movie, and then he got to divide it up how he wanted.
Yeah.
And so
he went in and edited it himself.
Which is, I mean, that's so amazing. That's so cool that they did that. But yeah, like I could go on about David Lynch forever, but how he's been able to tell the story in long form, and I'm sure it's just going to keep all coming together and it's going to be beautiful. But even just at this point, it's amazing how it's all connected so far.
Right.
Anyway, where was I? So they got the prints, and then they pinned the attack to Ike the Spike, our boy, with the very corny hip hop song.
Oh yeah,
Ike's theme.
He's always pounding whiskey too. That's
right.
one of my other favorite parts about Ike the Spike is how he's just pounding whiskey in front of a mirror.
Very relatable. I really thought shit was about to go down when he was in. Yeah, so the cops pin the attack on Ike, and they are familiar with Ike. He's a known criminal, and so they track him down at the motel that he's staying at, and they get him in the standoff in the hallway where there's 3 cops on each end of the hallway, so he has nowhere to go. And I was just like, for some reason, I mean, after the attack on the 2 ladies in the office, I was like, Ike's about to fucking kill all these cops real quick.
He's about to pop off. Yeah.
Pop off. Yeah. Luckily that didn't happen. I love the sound he made. He was just like, oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, no, that was more accurate. Very weird.
He's sounding like a non-playable character from Mario Sunshine.
Who is a playable character in what's the baseball game?
Mario Baseball. I don't know. It's probably called something else. But
shout out to all the Mario baseball heads. So yeah, they take his prints, and then we see. Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to mention this. So before the attack, we see Coop sitting down because he's in like a separate room while the cops are asking his boss questions. And we just see this really patriotic.
Yeah, he's staring at I wanted to mention this. Yeah, he's staring at the flag while America the Beautiful is playing very softly.
Yeah, just a little bit after the 4th of July. And man, oh man, have I never been so proud to be an American after watching that scene. Yeah, it's just Coop sitting down, like looking at this American flag while that's playing. And did you take that as just like him remembering like the FBI, or do you think he was just intrigued by how it looked? What do you think it was?
Well, when it first started happening, I thought he was going to see Mike.
Oh, right,
I,
right.
I thought that was going to be another
Hmm.
connection into the Black Lodge, but yeah, once I figured out that was America the Beautiful playing, I was like, that was kind of what ran through my head was thoughts of the FBI.
Hmm. Yeah, and so then how it transitions, he's kind of like a cat where like just a moving thing catches his eye. But a woman walks by and she's wearing red heels, and he stares at the red heels for a second, and then once his eyes move away from that, he looks up and just stares at the electrical outlet.
Hmm.
And so, do you think he was just remembering his journey?
I think so, definitely, with
Yeah.
the outlet.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think, was there any significance to the red heel?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Me either.
I'm sure that when we release these,
Oh
everyone
my
that
gosh.
listens in the comments will be like, "You guys missed all of
Yeah.
this,"
No.
which is kind of what I'm hoping for a little bit because I love being pointed in the right direction on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. No.
And
Agreed. I kind of feel like we're two Dougies in this situation. We're trying to
oh
we're
yeah,
trying to figure it out.
call for
So,
help.
yeah, please don't go too hard on us. Let's have a civil conversation. Yeah, point us, let us know where we're wrong. And again, we're not two experts on here, but we love to have your input. So past that, we so after that little moment of Dougie and I wrote down in my notes pointless chair scene with Andy and Lucy. Do you want to talk about that at all?
I like the beige chair, and I like the red chair.
They're so just dopey, and I feel like even more so than in the the
Original
original.
series.
Yeah, it's funny though. Like after I watched the scene, I was like, okay, that's a nice, cute little moment.
Can
And
we talk about Andy's stomach though? Is that his real stomach? Because to me, it looks like he literally stuffed a pillow in there and called it good.
it is a unique body shape, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
it doesn't look real.
Well, that's the thing about watching this series is a lot of these actors haven't been the man that plays Hawk, for example, has just done a lot of voice acting.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to see these people very often, and then all of a sudden they're like, it's 25 years later, and they're like, they look, they're in the same costume, like Andy's hair, for example. Like we're led to believe that Andy, even though his hair's thinning out, is still doing that goofy ass haircut. Um,
I love
uh,
his eyebrows. He's got real long eyebrows.
you gotta respect it.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the best parts about aging is letting those eyebrows grow. So,
Hell yeah.
so, but that's what this is one thing I wanted to bring up is a lot of this series is, you know, the first at least the first half of this new series so far is you're getting all these like fragmented parts of the story. Um,
Right.
just it's going back and forth between all these people, and what's hard to I mean, I'm sure it'll all make sense towards the end, and that's what I hope to believe, or at least as much closure as we can get for a Lynch story.
Hmm.
Um, is it's hard to point out when a moment is key to the story and just like a way to revisit the characters and like catch up with how everyone in Twin Peaks is doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
obvious, like that Andy and Lucy thing is non-important, right? Like there's no significance to that, and I think a lot of it's like that where there's all these moments where like, well, I don't think that's really that important, but
Hmm.
but even like some of the stuff with like Bobby seeing the Laura picture and like
Brings back a lot of memories.
yeah, and like with Shelley's daughter, and I think those things are gonna contribute to the story. So maybe it's just
Yeah.
Andy and Lucy. Um, so yeah, we got that nice little touching moment, and then let's see. Yeah, then we see Bobby, who's now the cop, going with Truman and Hawk to Bobby's mother's house. and they're gonna ask about. Well, how remind me again, Vin? How did they know to go there? Was it something that happened in South Dakota?
I see. That was what I was going to ask you because I didn't pick up why they were headed there. Maybe it was because I think it was because when they were talking about, because it's been a while since I watched episode 7, but I think they were discussing that the last person to see Cooper was Major Briggs.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That okay. Now that makes sense. Yeah, because they talked to Mark Frost's dad. What's his name? The doctor who has now passed.
Doc Hastings.
Yeah, Hastings. So yeah, they're trying to pinpoint the last to see Coop because Coop was acting weird.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Coop. So yeah, that makes sense now. So yeah, Bobby and Co go to talk to Bobby's mom, and she's like, "Well, I knew this day would come." Because I absolutely love Major Briggs' character, and I love how they've made him into. And I mean, you could even pick it up in the original series because he was so wise and just like so well spoken.
Yeah.
And obviously he had seen some
the
shit.
The huckleberries are particularly in season.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I love Major Briggs.
Yeah, amazing. But we now know that he is like prophetic in a lot of ways, where he knew that Bobby was gonna be a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Which like I don't know, it's amazing. But so yeah, basically he had told his wife, Bobby's mom, that he knew that this day would come, and that when they did show up to ask about Coop, to give them this little secret, small silver casing that looks almost like a pen
like a
or
capsule
something.
kind of.
Yeah. So, we see them go back to the police station. And dickhead, is his name Chad, the cop?
Chad, yeah.
Fucking Chad, dude. That scene. Oh, geez, I can't remember what episode it is now. But where he was like making fun of Truman's
wife.
Yeah, because she's a little loopy and she seems like she has a temper, and we didn't know why. And then we find out that their son committed suicide. Is that right? Because he was a soldier, right? And yeah, we see Chad like mocking their dead soldier son. Or like, so whenever, I hope Chad gets it at some point. Hope Bob comes back and takes his bitch ass out. Who knows if that'll happen. But yeah, we see him eating in the conference room. Just more disrespect. And they kick him out. Get out. And once they kick him out, they open up a window, and Bobby's like, "Hey, I know how to open that capsule thing." So they go outside and they slam that shit into the ground a couple times. And the first time, I thought the sound was significant because I almost thought it sounded like what Ben Horn was hearing.
That's what I thought too.
Okay, so you thought the same thing.
I thought it kind of sounded like the sound from the Great Northern. Right,
and somebody pointed this out. I don't remember who. I read this online that sound is the same sound that the arm makes. I believe in the last episode of season 2 when he's rubbing his hands together, or maybe it's in Fire Walk with Me. I don't remember which. So I don't know. Uh-huh. I don't know how significant that is. That's the same sound. Or that those are all similar, or maybe they just stick with a similar sound design. Who knows? You never know.
Yeah.
So, it rings, and then Bobby slams it for the second time, and then it has a little note in it. And this is probably the most important part of the episode. Would you agree?
Yeah. I would say that it's a tie between this and what comes later with Tammy.
Yeah. So the note inside is there's 2 pieces of paper, and one has the time 2:53, or maybe it's coordinates, we don't know. with instructions on how to get to this location, and so even going back to how insightful and Major Briggs was, and how he could apparently see the future. He knew that this day was going to come at this exact time, and there was instructions on where to get to this location 2 days from now. Do you think that is the Black Lodge entry point that we know?
Man, I didn't even think about that. That very well could be. I guess we're gonna have to see, because Bobby obviously knows where it is.
Yeah.
The Jackrabbit Palace, as he calls it.
Oh, right, yeah. So Bobby is very important in the story. He knows exactly where it is. Yeah, because he was talking about how he named it that, right, when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm sure someone in the comments can maybe give us a little bit more insight as to what exactly they think that'll be. But yeah, that was obviously a huge point. And it has, the infamous 2 triangle symbols. Man. And yeah, and then the other piece of paper is the same sort of code that Major Briggs would receive in his his very secret line of work with the government and the military or whatever. These codes that they would receive from space or wherever it was coming from, and it says Cooper twice in it. And then I think it's Hawk that says 2 Coopers. So that's huge. And again, that goes back to what we were saying, where they're starting to figure out what's really going on. All these characters from each different side story, whether it's Gordon and Albert and Diane, or now Truman, Hawk, and Bobby, they're starting to piece together, at least from their side of it, what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, I wish I had an exact theory as to what that's going to lead to, but I really don't. I have a feeling it's something to do with the Black Lodge, or maybe the White Lodge, because coordinates are a huge part of this story. Evil Coupe's looking for coordinates, and now we find out, leading into that, we go back to the Shaggy Principal. What's his name?
Oh, geez. I've been calling him Shaggy because...
All right. Not to belittle his performance, because I think he's doing a very good job.
Oh no, he's great. It's just I think of the Scooby-Doo movie when I see him. Mainly because I watched it like a week before I started watching Twin Peaks.
I forgot how recently you watched that. It's a little disappointing, but I guess it's good to revisit things from your childhood.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Oh, man, what was that dinosaur movie you showed me not too long ago that I just hated?
We're Back, a Dinosaur Story.
Awful title, awful movie.
The horrific ending of the villain in that movie, though, is great. For anybody who hasn't seen We're Back, a Dinosaur Story, there's a guy named Professor Screweyes, and at the end of the movie, these crows just, fly all over him and turn him, they make him go into the Jesus Christ crucifixion pose, and then they fly off and they've eaten his entire body, and then his screw eye falls to the ground, and there's no score that plays. It's just the crows fly onto him and then they fly off, and then the screw hits the ground, and it's terribly creepy. I don't know why that was in a children's film. Anyway, Twin Peaks.
Hopefully that happens to Chad. That's how we can tie that in.
Yeah, hopefully that's how we get rid of Chad here.
So we go back to the principal, who's been in jail for, it's hard to say how long the story is spanning. I'm assuming it's only been a couple days, because we see him at the beginning of the series, episode 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, yep.
So yeah, we see him again, and he's Tammy, and we should note that after looking at Briggs's, oh man, how did we miss this, Vin? After looking at Briggs's body, we find out that the principal has been running this online site where he's talking about
a different dimension.
Yeah, he's talking about a different dimension, and so basically he talked with the Major when he was in this other zone, and that's essentially what leads us to Gordon, Albert, and Diane and Tammy going to talk to him.
Right.
Man, that's a huge point. That's where that ended off. So Tammy sits down with Principal Shaggy and
the Shaggy Principal.
The Shaggy Principal. Sorry, a good old reference to our boy Tim Allen.
You know, this isn't the only way that Twin Peaks ties into Scooby-Doo. There was I was looking for a Twin Peaks wallpaper for my phone.
Okay.
And I kept finding these pictures of Scooby-Doo in the Black Lodge, and I was like, what the hell is this? There's apparently like an episode or like a movie that's fairly recent of Scooby-Doo where he's in the Black Lodge, and they got the guy that plays the man from another place to like be in this Twin Peaks reference in Scooby-Doo.
The closest he will be to Twin Peaks ever again.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Wow, I did not know that. That's amazing. Maybe we can watch that and talk about that for an episode.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. So Tammy sits down with the Shaggy Principal and starts talking about his experience with seeing this other dimension. And I apologize in advance for my breakdown of this scene because he's very hysterical and I didn't have the subtitles on, so you kind of miss some of what he's saying.
I watched it with the subtitles on, so I should be able to fill in any gaps for you.
Okay, cool.
I watch everything with subtitles now. I don't know when that happened, but
I'm the same way.
I always have subtitles on. Well, and there's a lot of times, especially in this new The Return, where I felt like I wasn't hearing anything, but the subtitles were telling me what was being said. And I was like, oh, there's dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's super important. So, but he talks about when he entered the zone. He talks about his conversation with the Major, and he says that the Major's been hiding, or as the Major put it, hibernating in this other zone.
Mm-hmm.
And the Major is looking for the coordinates, which I think it's safe to say that those are the same coordinates that Bob. Or, not sorry. Well, yeah, Bob.
That Scale Cooper's looking for.
Yeah, Scale Coupe's looking for.
Definitely.
So, is there anything else in that conversation I missed? I know he talks about his exact, how his, I forget her name, the librarian died.
Ruth was the name of the librarian.
Yeah.
So, from what I took from the conversation, he says that him and Ruth they found in a book or something that if they went to this place they would meet with someone, and it turns out to be the Major.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells them to get the numbers, which they find out are coordinates. And I believe it's around this time that he says, then the bad men showed up and they grabbed me by the neck and asked me what my wife's name was, and I'm assuming that was Scale Coupe coming in and like trying to he gets the name of Shaggy Principal's wife, and he kind of brings them into his whole scheme, and I'm assuming gets blackmail on them and starts using them against each other and whatnot, because if we remember towards the beginning of the series, he shows up at Shaggy Principal's house and kills his wife. And so I'm assuming that was Scale Coupe that he talked to, and Scale Coupe was he's trying to get these coordinates as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bring the coordinates back to the Major, and when the Major receives them, he starts floating, and Shaggy says that the Major's head just disappears. And he's like, you don't understand, it was real, it was beautiful. And then he looks over, and Ruth is dead. And he's like, I don't know how it happened, man.
Yeah, well, I don't think we'll ever see that depicted, unfortunately, because I would love to get a visual reference on that.
Of the Major
I'm
floating.
assuming, yeah, rest in peace to that actor.
Yeah.
But I think, that's probably, he probably floated the same way that the Giant floated.
Oh, yeah.
In episode 8, except the Giant didn't lose his head.
Yeah.
He just put an orb out of it,
Definitely.
Lorb. Is that what we'll call the Laura orb?
Yeah. So, do we think that the coordinates were for the entrance of the White Lodge, perhaps?
I think so. And I'm very confused on the White Lodge because I do think what we saw in episode 8 with the giant and his I forget her character's name. Obviously, it's never said, but the woman that's with the giant. I do believe that's the White Lodge. But I think the thing that confuses me the most about it is when Coop leaves the Black Lodge in episode 3 or 4. And he kind of gets taken to that kind of purgatory zone where he goes into the red room. Well, he sees the purple ocean, right?
Yeah.
And obviously in episode 8, we see this long shot of we're quickly flying over this purple ocean, and then it leads us to the structure where the giant and his lady friend are, which, we believe to be the White Lodge. So I think maybe where Coop was some sort of middle, like a purgatory, like a middle ground. And maybe this is the zone that, do you think the Shaggy Principal was in the Black Lodge or a purgatory or somewhere else?
See, that's a great question. I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah.
But like you said, he was hysterical, so I don't think he was, describing it to the best of his ability, obviously.
Right. Yeah, and not to backtrack too much, but to anybody else who's all caught up, the thing that intrigued me the most about Coop's kind of escape from that purgatory zone, and I think what I'm most intrigued to find out is if that is part of the White Lodge or if that is just some sort of middle nowhere ground, because the most significant points are where Coop climbs up the ladder and is in kind of the outer space territory, and we see the Major's head float by, and he says Blue Rose, right?
Yes.
So that's huge, and the Blue Rose is a reference to Fire Walk with Me. And yeah, there's a lot of mystery about it. There's a deleted scene in Fire Walk with Me where Coop knows what the Blue Rose means because he's telling that to Kiefer Sutherland's character. But Kiefer Sutherland is interested as to what the Blue Rose means, and Coop says he can't tell him. So we're led to believe that once Coop rediscovers himself, whatever that takes, because that's a conversation for a debate too, because Mike tells him basically, wake up, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem as simple as that, or maybe it is. Who knows? I don't think it's something he can do off of his own free will, personally.
Right.
But whatever Briggs tells him there is significant with the Blue Rose. But going back to my original point, why was Briggs there? That's what makes me to believe, I guess, that maybe the Shaggy Principal was in that sort of purgatory zone that Coop was in, and maybe that's where the Major's been.
Yeah, definitely.
Some sort of weird Twilight Zone type.
Yeah, I almost wonder if when the Major lost his head, that was when it floated by Coop.
Right. I would agree with that. I've seen, shout out to whoever the YouTube user is that did it, but somebody synced up the opening scene, or like not the exact opening scene, but when the mother experiment or the creature comes in through the glass. Somebody synced the moments before that up where Coop comes in, and with where the guy and the girl that are watching that room are on the outside talking, and it's weird how it all perfectly syncs up. So, man, if we know anything about this series so far, the timeline of that event, maybe with the Shaggy Principal and Briggs's head floating by, probably does. It probably does match up to something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably a good theory. I think that's probably the moments after, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a huge point, and we'll know more about that because right now we're just getting little pieces of that, what his significance is in the story, the Shaggy Principal, but
right,
he's given a good performance so far.
Oh, definitely, and I love that we kind of that puts together why Scale Coop or what Scale Coop is looking for, and
Right. And Vin, did you mention that when the Major floats up, the thing that he says is Cooper, Cooper? He says Cooper twice?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's huge. And so he's letting him know too, I guess, that there's two Coops out there.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. That gosh, that's beyond me at this point. Who the hell is Dougie Jones? Where does he get off?
What the hell?
What the hell? And man, after that we see a scene in the bar where all the episodes. Oh gosh, can we talk about the armpit lady?
Oh God, yeah, the tweakers.
The tweaker
and her terrible armpit rash. No, that was too much for me.
Okay, I was just a little grossed out by that, so I wasn't thinking too critically. Do you think that was an important scene? Do you think maybe that rash is something?
I don't know if it's something significant or if it's just she's a hardcore tweaker.
Yeah, and I think maybe that'll lead into the next episode because Shelly's daughter is obviously taking some sort of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And drugs have always been a very important part of Twin Peaks. Obviously, Laura was very intoxicated at the time of her death. She did coke. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other drug that like the host for Mike would take, because when he took the drug, he didn't turn into Mike. He was still
Mike. Yeah,
he was still his original self.
He was Gerard. Yeah.
Gerard. Yeah.
And then also Leland was drugging his wife.
That he was. So yeah, maybe that'll lead into something, but I do think that's important. Obviously, a lot of people have been speculating that Shelley's daughter is some sort of Laura type figure, or potentially even a host to Laura, because now that we've seen that Laura came from an orb, and if we're led to believe that the Bob orb was the thing that was possessing Coop, why wouldn't the Laura orb be able to, be in someone else and have that person play her host, right?
Right. So, that kind of wraps up the episode, but there's a couple of things that we didn't chat about that I thought might be significant.
Me too. So go ahead, and then I'll say what I got.
So at the beginning of the episode, we see Scale Cooper, or Doppeldale. That's another good one I like. Doppeldale.
Doppeldale, that is good.
He grabs a bandana that's sitting on like a post, and I'm not sure if that's like a way to let Tim Roth and everybody know that he's there, or what the significance of that was, but we definitely see that, and I'm not sure if it's something that matters or not. Just
right.
Like, everything in the show.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was we see a shot of Sheriff Truman's house, and there's a dude just running, just sprinting through the house, and she's like, "Oh, who let him out?" And he hits his head on the wall.
Right, that's right.
And that's all we get of that. And I'm not sure if that is Truman's, if that's his other son, or who
maybe that
is.
Was the son, right? Because all we know, and I was insinuating when I said before that his son killed himself, because basically all Chad says is he does a mocking, wiping away tears gesture, and says he couldn't handle being a soldier. Is that right? Is that what he says?
Yeah.
So maybe he suffered, because it looked, I don't know, I don't want to infer too much here, but he didn't seem well when he was running. Like maybe he had some sort of mental disorder at this point, and so maybe that was a result of the war that he was in.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what led to his death, because I'm assuming that whoever that was, if that's Truman's son or another son, that they died from that head injury.
Yeah, well, what that brought me back to was Ben Horn's son, that we did not see a whole lot of in the original series, but he obviously also had another mental ailment. That's what that made me think of.
You know what? I completely forgot about that character because it was just a very, we see him for a little bit and then we just get Audrey for the rest of the time.
Yeah, we saw him like twice in the
Yeah.
whole series, but I always thought that maybe he had some significance, and then I never saw anything play out in the original series, but
Wow, good. Yeah, good callback, man. I completely forgot about that character. So, I don't know if that's going to be there's a lot of another character I'm intrigued by is the woman that is contemplating having the affair with Bob. Or sorry. Yeah,
with Ben.
Ben Horn. The thing I always it's Ben. But
or Robert E. Lee if you prefer.
Yeah. And then also there being two Mikes in the series is a little confusing. I know Mike Nelson isn't as important, but but anyway, this woman who's contemplating in the last couple episodes having this affair with Ben goes home to her husband, who's obviously sick, and it looks like he's going through chemo. And when I first saw it, I was like, is that Harry? Because we know Harry's really sick in the story. But that's not the case. I think she said his name is Tom. Is that right?
Yeah, I was going to say I think it's Thomas.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things like that. We don't know where those little side stories are leading or if they are leading anywhere. Man, is there anything else? Because I know there was one thing that I noticed that I wanted to mention. I don't know if there's anything else you forgot.
Not that's coming to mind.
Okay. One thing, this is probably small. This kind of debunks some fan theories. A lot of people were speculating that Tim Roth was gonna pick up David Bowie's character. That's who he was gonna portray.
Yeah. And obviously he's
not.
No.
He is not David Bowie.
No, he's not Philip Jeffries.
And so that's another thing, though, is we don't know if, like, I just read this, but, like, the log lady, she died in 2015. Yeah. So she was able to, they filmed some stuff for her. So if there was, rest in peace, David Bowie, I believe he passed, sometime in
January 2016.
Okay, so it was early 2016. So he definitely could have filmed something.
And everyone stayed tight-lipped about it.
Right.
We don't know if he is in it or not.
That's the other thing is we do know that there's a lot of secrecy around this series. I believe David Lynch said that if anyone spoke out, he would sue them for $1 million.
Well, and I heard that how they shot it was everyone had the script for their own character and no one else. Like, they received the script the day of, and they would shoot the scenes on that script, and then the script was immediately shredded.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure we're preaching to the choir here because I'm sure everybody listening knows more about Twin Peaks than we do. But to anybody unfamiliar with David Bowie's character, he was an agent in Fire Walk with Me, who I believe had been missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And essentially the purpose of his character was the Fire Walk with Me was going to be the first in a series of stories that, follow different characters, Major Briggs, Coop, David Bowie's character, that kind of go into their experience with the Black Lodge and like kind of the lore and the back history of it. Like we would find out things about the Black Lodge through their experience. Since Fire Walk with Me was kind of a dud, it didn't do so well in the box office. That never happened. They just kind of moved on from Twin Peaks. So we really don't know how important his character, David Bowie's character, could potentially be, because if you think about it, Major Briggs' character is huge to the story, and
right.
And so if David Bowie was going to be a similar device to explore these, this history.
We've already gotten the references to his character. Scale Cooper, when he uses that weird telephone briefcase, he believes he's talking to Philip Jeffries at first, but he realizes it's not. And then, he tells Gordon and Albert that he's working undercover for Philip Jeffries.
Right.
And later, I thought Ray, the guy that shoots Scale Cooper, I thought that maybe he was on the phone with Philip Jeffries.
Oh, that is a good theory.
So I'm not entirely sure. I don't think we know who Ray was talking to in episode 8, but I think that obviously Philip Jeffries is a key player in this story. We just don't know how yet.
Wow, man, I can't help but feel that there's just all of this confusion, like all of these versions of Coop. I mean, except for Good Coop, who's been missing, but nobody knows that. Dougie and Evil Coupe have a lot of enemies at this point. And the way, I don't know. I mean, you and I were talking in our previous conversation that a lot of Dougie's enemies have kind of wiped themselves out.
Yeah.
But obviously the heads of the casino have it out for him because
and I think that maybe they know Scale Cooper somehow.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, but I can't help but feel obviously with Evil Coupe's partner that shot him in episode 8, at the beginning of episode 8, and then took off and said, if he survived, I'll take care of him. So there's going to be this big showdown, and I feel like maybe if these stories do come to a head, like I think they will, there's going to be confusion as to who actually has it out for who. Like maybe some of Dougie's enemies are going to think it's, evil
Scale Cooper.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's going to be amazing to see, though, if and when that happens. But, man, any other final thoughts? That's the thing. And this is kind of the whole point of this podcast, is it's kind of us trying to talk through the episode and make sense of it. And then also it's just talking about the lore and what we suspect to be going on. And
you know what? It just hit me.
What's that?
Diane receives that text message, and that's the text from Scale Coop, is it not?
You know what? Goddamn, you're right. Because when Coop, yes, okay. So when Scale Coop is at the farm with Tim Roth and Jennifer Jason Leigh before he takes off, and also before he makes out with Jennifer Jason Leigh off of the recommendation,
and gets the Cheetos.
Like Tim Roth is the one that recommends it. I think he actually recommends that they go to bed together. Is that right? He goes, "Wow, you give him a good old wet one."
Yeah, that's what.
That's right. And then he doesn't have time to. Anyway,
yeah, she's like, I wish I could do more.
Yeah. Anyway, before he takes off and Tim Roth shoots his phone, and when he leaves,
with the best shot of all time,
right?
It's like perfect accuracy.
Scale Coop sends a text, and you're right, that makes so much sense that's the text that Diane received. So
dinner around the corner. I don't remember what the second sentence was. Something interesting or something like that.
Yeah. So how could he be tracking her or be familiar with where?
Yeah, so it's interesting to perhaps know. Well, because when she talked to Scale Coop, she obviously was frightened as hell, and was like, "That's not him."
Yeah. So there's no way that there's no way that those two have been in communication recently. Obviously, she hadn't seen him in a long time and was frightened when she did see him. So Evil Coupe's got some things up his sleeve if he's able to get in contact with her, right?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if she knows that that's him or what's going on there.
Right, because people have speculated that the reason why she has white hair is because the last time that she encountered Coop, he had in fact become Bob Coop, and because she had an encounter with him, that turned her hair white. I don't really suspect that to be the case. I don't know about you.
Right. I mean, that would have to, it would be weird that would only be.
Yeah, I agree. unless he tried. Well, because okay, not to get too graphic, but Leland did obviously rape Laura in Fire Walk with Me, and like I suspected maybe if she was like frightened and that was their last encounter, that maybe that's what he did to her. But then again, Laura's hair didn't turn white.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a stretch, although it is, you know, it's all, that's what's great about Twin Peaks is there's so many different things that you can like, oh, maybe those two things connect. And but yeah, obviously Coop, man, maybe that's where Evil Coupe is headed next, to run into them again, you think maybe?
Perhaps. That would be interesting to see.
Man, oh man. That's another thing I love about this series is like with each television show, you know, we get on next week's episode of Twin Peaks. There's none of that. We get no teasers.
Nope.
We're just presented the next episode when it comes. So, hey. Well, my cup of coffee is about empty. You got anything else you want to say?
Mine evaporated about halfway through. I think it's time.
Did you pour it out and turn it into sludge?
No, not quite. I think it's time for cherry pie, though.
All right. Well, I mean, you got any other final thoughts, man?
No, I mean, thank you if you made it this far, thank you for listening. I mean, our biggest qualification for talking about Twin Peaks is we live in the state of Washington, you know.
Right. Vin was just at North Bend.
That's right. Yeah, I visited the Double R Diner, had a damn fine cup of coffee and a damn fine cherry pie. And let me tell you, the coffee and pie there, it doesn't disappoint. It's fantastic. I bought a pound of the beans, and we haven't ground them up yet just because we're saving them for a special time. That we need that perfect cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be making a trip over to Seattle in less than 2 weeks, so I'll definitely stop by there. Maybe I'll do a little video, a little tour.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the Salish Lodge, which is the Great Northern in the show, you're free to just walk around there, and it's beautiful. The falls and the hotel there, it's completely gorgeous. It's breathtaking to see in real life, and the whole time you're there, the score to the show is playing in your brain. So
man,
it's a special place for sure.
And legend has it, if you're lucky, you'll see a high Jerry Horn lost in the woods in that area.
We didn't talk about his foot.
His foot essentially turned into the arm.
Yeah, it did. I was looking because I thought maybe the arm was there, but it was just I think I'm high.
You know what? I think that Jerry is going to be an important part of the story. I think he's going to be wherever this location is at that Major Briggs told them to go to. I think Jerry might accidentally stumble upon it while he's high.
That would be beautiful. I love
because
Jerry
he's
Horn,
been lost in. Yeah, he's amazing, amazing actor. But he's been lost in the woods for, several episodes now. So I think there's some significance to that, but I could be wrong.
Well, I'm anxious to find out, as I'm sure everyone else is.
Man, oh man. Well, yeah, I think that'll probably do it for this episode. We'd love to hear your theories. That's kind of the whole point of this, is just to be a little spot where we can have this conversation and try and make sense of the episodes and figure out where it's going to go next. So
right. Thanks for listening to Fire Pod with me this week, guys. Join us next week when we talk about episode 10 of The Return. Hopefully we see Big Ed. I'm anxious to see Big Ed.
I thought he was going to pop up this episode. I love Big Ed.
Yeah. In the meantime, work on your drape runners, guys. I'm Vinny, and thanks for listening.
I'm Steven. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.